Okay, so now we're talking about the flexors of the wrist and of the hand. And again, I'm going to do them all together because it's pragmatic. That's just how it's going to work better. So they all join to the medial epicondyle, which you can see is much larger than the lateral epicondyle. And the reason for that is that these muscles, which are all the flexor muscles, are much stronger than the extensor muscles, because they essentially give you the power of your grip. Okay, so there is a common flexor tendon, and the tendon, just like the extensor tendon, the tendon has a large fibrous band which forms a loop across here, and stuff tucks under and stuff tucks over. This is called the canal of Froese, whoever Froese was. And it is a possible cause of impingement of the median nerve as it runs down the arm. Okay, so we're going to look at initially muscles that flex the wrist. And just like with the extensors, you describe everything in terms of radius, radial side, and ulnar side. So the muscles that flex the wrist actually come down and they join into the metacarpals, and the difference here in this part of the wrist is that if we look carefully, there is a carpal tunnel. Okay, and the carpal tunnel has an extremely strong fibrous band over the top of it. And what happens to the flexors of the wrist is that they come in and they join into the carpal base here, and they spread over this very strong retinaculum, which is a strong fibrous band that covers the top of the carpal tunnel. And there is the flexor carpi radialis, and then there's the flexor carpi ulnaris. So we're looking for the medial epicondyle. There it is. You can feel it as a nice firm bump right over here. The common flexor tendon runs like that. The carpi ulnaris is the most lateral of the muscles, so it runs down like this and joining in here. And in fact, this is an easy tendon to feel, running down like that. If you just lift your wrist up against me, this tendon pops right out. You can feel it, see it very easily. The radialis is the most lateral, so it comes across like that, coming down here and joining into the carpal bones and across the retinaculum here. These are strong muscles. The triggers are here in the largest mass of the muscles, here and there. The pain that you feel may be in this area, but more commonly the radialis refers to the radial part of the wrist, and the ulnaris refers to the ulnar part of the wrist, and both may refer up into the zone here, more commonly lower. The second group of muscles are the Flexor Digitorum. So these are the ones that flex your fingers. Now they're complicated because there is an extremely complicated arrangement of tendons in your fingers. So there are a deep set of flexors and a superficial set of flexors. If I was to again use this model, the superficial, which are the ones higher up, come down and they join into the they come down and they spread it like this and join into the middle phalanx of the finger. The deep tendon actually runs deep and it slips through the division of the superficial tendon and it joins into the tip, the distal phalanx of the finger. So it's a complicated arrangement, and all of these tendons run through the all of these tendons run through the carpal tunnel. So you have the flexor tendons of the fingers all arise from this common flexor tendon here. The muscle runs in between the flexors of the wrist, and again the arrangement is that they all join together, even though they're separate bellies around here. Each one becomes a tendon. All the tendons run through the carpal tunnel, which sits here, and you can feel the two sides of the carpal tunnel, the pisiform bone here and the hamate over here, and what there is, and the strong retinaculum between them. They join in underneath, and then they do their complicated superficial dividing, deep coming through. Okay, now the trigger points all run again across like that. And the trigger points do something fascinating. They refer into the finger and seem to shoot out the end, which is completely different from the extensors. The extensors came down and they stop before the distal phalanx. These refer into the finger. Usually there might be a line here, but usually starting in the hand, becoming stronger in the finger, and it feels like it extends beyond the finger. So the reason for those differences, I don't know. I don't really don't think anybody really understands. But this is what is felt. So to treat the triggers, recognizing that they all live where the biggest bulk of the muscle is, and recognizing again, just like when you dealt with the extensors, that the majority of symptoms that you feel are either over the medial epicondyle or over the wrist or in the fingers. So these are often missed again when people present to you, because they will describe pain in these areas and nobody thinks to look for the triggers in here. To find the trigger, it's a simple matter. The long lines run this way, your tight bands are going to be here, and it's a simple matter of feeling, running this way, searching for the band, moving up and down till you find the trigger, and then treating the trigger with ischemic pressure until it goes, or running cold, starting at the origin, especially if the origin happens to be where the pain is referring from, starting at the origin, running over, down, into the pain zone if it happens to be the fingers, all the way down, 2 or 3 runs like that. And then if it's a flexor of the wrist, then if it's the radialis, you will extend the wrist and pull it over slightly to the ulnar side. If it's ulnaris, you will do that and go to the radial side, and in that position again 1 or 2 runs. like that. Put heat on and repeat the stretch. For the fingers, again the same treatment, searching for triggers in here. To be very precise, if you want to, if it's in this finger, you can put your hand here, pull against me, and immediately you can feel the trigger there. So this is where the flexor of the middle finger comes. Okay, and to differentiate between superficial and deep flexors is impossible if you're treating like this. If you're needling, then obviously the superficial triggers will be less deep and the deep triggers will be deeper, and you can show it in that way. But practically it doesn't matter a jot. And if you're wanting to stretch, then you're not only stretching the wrist, but you're also taking the fingers or the specific finger. So you stretch the finger, and then you put heat on, and then you stretch the finger again. So that is the complicated and fascinating arrangement that we have in our forearm, which moves the wrist and our fingers of this remarkable, incredible structure which is our hands.